everybody. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Parent University. We started these sessions a couple of weeks ago in response to a survey that we sent out as a district to find out what kind of help parents said that they needed as they are embarking upon this remote learning journey at their houses. And so each of the topics for Parent University have come from that survey, everything from setting up good routines in the home to instructional technology help to literacy support. Some of the topics later this week will include information from our counselors about helping kids with their emotion at home and that sort of thing. And today's topic is a very specialized topic, but it's definitely a topic that there's a lot of interest around. And that is related to all of the new information that has been released from the College Board related to AP exams and preparation and kind of this unprecedented environment of trying to navigate AP preparation and exams from home. And so joining us today, we have a really great panel of teachers and campus administrators and central administrators who have made it their work to learn everything possible about all of the new information that has come out from College Board since all of this began a month and a half or so ago, and to try to synthesize that for the families who may be needing that information in order to best help their students prepare at home. So I am going to jump right on in and let my panelists introduce themselves. And they'll tell you their name, kind of what their role is in the district, and then maybe a little bit about their greatest celebration and their greatest challenge that has been a part of this learning at home situation that we've been in. So Julie, can you kick us off?
Of course. Good afternoon. My name is Julie Leslie, Director of Advanced Academics. Happy to be here with you today. My greatest celebration would have to be just the field of education right now. Never have I been prouder to be an educator, as I have gotten to watch the way GCISD teachers have made such a Herculean effort to first connect with all their students to make sure that they're okay. And then the hours that they are spending, during the day, evenings and weekends, to try to translate the rich things they do with kids in the classroom to an online learning environment. And I just have been so proud of them. And it's been such a privilege to come alongside and help them in any way that I can. And that is connected to the challenge, to just trying to figure out how I can, from home, support the rich work teachers are doing with students.
Thank you very much. I can completely relate to both of those. Colivian.
Good afternoon. I am Colivian Greene, and I am an assistant principal at Colleyville Heritage High School, and I'm also the AP coordinator. And one of my greatest celebrations kind of echoes Julie, has been just the efforts of our teachers, not only to reach our students academically, but the efforts that they are going above and beyond and doing to still make connections with our students and doing those fun, like get to know you activities kind of deeper in the setting. And so being able to see those and being a part of those with the teachers in the classrooms has been amazing to see. And kind of my biggest challenge, I think, in this environment, especially as the AP coordinator with all of our kids still testing, has been just the amount of information that College Board is putting out and trying to synthesize together and make sure that teachers are aware, parents are aware, and students also.
Absolutely. This information is so important. Thank you for that. Kristin.
Hi, my name is Kristin Koulabouth. I'm one of the counselors over at Colivian Heritage. And the greatest celebration right now, I think, has just been our community. I've been so impressed. I am a Facebook member, and so kind of watching the groups that are adopting seniors outside of our district, just the community taking over and doing that, and then also teachers for teacher appreciation, and they have just kind of taken the lead on supporting the school district, and I've been really impressed with that and happy with that. So I think that that's a great celebration. The greatest challenge, I think I have two. One is working at home with my husband and my 4-year-old. and trying to both be on calls at the same time, and especially the other challenges with my students. A lot of students are grieving their senior year or not being at school. They're also having a really hard time being out of control. There are so many things that we all are learning we can't control on a real level. And so just supporting them from a virtual world where you can't give hugs or high fives or things like that has been a challenge, a good challenge, and I think we're going to be better for it. But hopefully there's not a kiddo having a hard day and then my 4-year-old coming up. So it's a good challenge, and so I've appreciated the opportunity.
Completely agree. There are lots of kind of competing priorities that we're all juggling right now, for sure. Jasmine.
Hey, I work at Grapevine High School. I'm an AP teacher. Greatest celebration, I think, is seeing how community has really come together in such sort of an amazing way. Like, I know it's Teacher Appreciation Week, but I posted this on Facebook too. I've been on Facebook more now than I have in the past year, but it's really all of us, the students, the teachers, the parents, that should be celebrated, because I had a parent that replied back with some positive feedback and was just, amazed at how we're all kind of coming together to support our students. And I think that goes along with, I have 75 to 85, 90% of students who I'm in contact with every week, which I think is really great. There's just a small handful that we're having to do the extra, footwork to make contact with. But on the other side of that, the greatest challenge sort of is keeping those kiddos to keep them motivated to try their best on the AP exam. It's one score, one day. And I hope for the best for them. And I know they've done the work all year long. And I want to do my best to provide them that support, but also trying to send the message home every week that we also understand that all of us are facing different challenges at home, and recognizing that we're going to do the best we can when we can. And so just trying to balance sort of those messages with parents and students, because we don't want to overwhelm, but we want to be supportive too. And also, I have 3 children at home as well, 8, 9, and 10. So that's a challenge. Actually, 9, 10, and 11. I forgot we had all the birthdays.
Yeah, which day is it? Which month is it? Who even knows right now?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys. I love the fact that we have such a broad range of perspectives included in today's webinar. I think that's going to be really rich as we have the conversation. So a little bit about the process and expectations we will use during today's webinar. Like I said before, the topics came from requests we got from parents. And one of the things that we really need to balance when we have these webinars is that we're trying to provide general information for students parents to access across the district. And so if there are any specific questions related to a student or a teacher, emailing that teacher and or the campus principal is probably the most expedient way to handle that. But if you do have any questions that you think are generic and might be relevant to the entire conversation today, you can put those in the chat room or the chat bar down at the bottom as you're watching, and we'll have those sent over to me before the end of the session, and as to the degree possible, we will try to address those before we take off. And then also, this presentation will be archived, and the slides and the transcript of it will be shown up on the district's parent university website probably within the next few hours. And then we record the webinar and post the archive of it within the next couple of days. And so if you have some friends that you know would need to see this, we'll be sharing it widely as well, but it will be available for you to rewatch or share if you need to. The other thing that I think is important for today is we are going to share the following 3 main focus areas. The first is latest information from College Board about this year's testing plans, because they are like no other year's plans in terms of the scope and manner of testing. We'll give some tips for students and parents in order to use the next few weeks of preparation time wisely, and we'll talk about materials that are needed. So without further ado, we're going to jump right on into focus area number 1, which is the latest information from College Board. And I'm going to let my panel go ahead and take it from here.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Newell. So we do have some slides that are, in some cases, really a little bit text heavy, information rich, We also have quite a few live links, and so there are more live links than we have time to get into for this session, and so we do invite you to visit some of those at a later date. But as a rough overview, the students do have 45 minutes for each AP exam. They do need to check in for that exam 30 minutes early, so that's important. And we're going to talk in a couple of slides about a ticket that is required for the students to have to do that test. We'll talk about that in a minute. It is important that students hit the submit button to get credit. So even if they aren't entirely finished and completing an answer for the question, if they don't hit that submit button, they won't get any credit. Whereas if they at least hit the submit button before the time expires, they will be able to get partial credit for the answer that they have so far. The College Board has said far and wide that students can use any device. So that can be a desktop, a laptop, a phone, a variety of devices, except for Chromebooks, cannot be used for any world language exam or for music theory exams. But other than that, they can use any device. And you'll see that repeated on a couple of slides because we thought that was really an important note to emphasize. Also, handwritten submissions are allowed, but students obviously have to take a picture of what it is that they write down and then submit that handwritten response. And so one webinar I listened to from the College Board, the example was given that if it's a question that requires an essay, like for a history or an English exam, students may want to type that and submit their answer in that way. However, perhaps they're taking a calculus exam. In that example, they may want to handwrite their answer and then take a picture and submit. We are going to show a link to a video in a slide or two, and that is so important for the kids to watch that video because it shows how to do the various things that I've just mentioned. We also have a playlist on this next bullet related to all of the how-to videos that the College Board is providing. That exam day checklist that is underlined, that is a live link, and that would also be very important for AP students and parents to open and look at that checklist. Okay, Dr. Newell?
Certainly, thank you. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Here you go.
Okay, thank you. There is also an AP testing guide, which would be yet another, did we just skip us accidentally?
Oh, sorry, I hit it twice.
That's okay.
There you go.
That AP testing guide would be another good resource for students and access to students and parents to access. I think, Kristin, maybe you were going to talk about this slide.
Yeah, well, first, the AP testing guide is where I got most of my personal information on all of this. It is like the go-to for everything. And so I think that that's huge. I was invited to be on the panel because I work mostly with our students who use accommodations on College Board exams. And so that is our second bullet point on the slide. So sorry about, if you have a student who is already approved for College Board accommodations, then they will be able to use those accommodations on those AP tests online. There are a few caveats to it, and so it's all in that same AP testing guide, and counselors at both schools are very well versed in how these are going to be used online, but there is programming where it will read to students who have a reader as an accommodation, and then there's also where students can use a family member to read to them as well, depending on how you are most comfortable. So there's some interesting information about that in that testing guide, and like I said, we're always here to answer questions too. I have been getting questions also about students who want to be approved for accommodations for their AP tests. And at this point in time, it is past the deadline to apply for accommodations. However, if there's an emergency, if a student, I have one that Miss Greene and I are working with that has a broken hand, and this is the writing hand, and this is going to cause some issues where we might need some extra time. There are emergency situations where with the doctor's documentation, we can apply for those for any students. So I think that that's important to note.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Kristin, when it comes to the timing for students who get extra time, I believe I saw the College Board said that that extra time would automatically be added to the timer that is going to be on the student's screen when they are testing. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we usually have time and a half, and some students have double time, and they are already pre-programmed in for that based on their e-ticket code and their SSD number. Yeah.
That's also an important bullet there. And Jasmine, you brought that to my attention. If you want to speak about how Grammarly must be removed from the student's device.
Yes. So I participated in a webinar that College Board presented about the May updates, and it stated that they cannot have the Grammarly extension installed because the plugin will not work with the system that College Board is using to access the e-ticket and submit. And so they'll have to disable that.
And then that last bullet there is also very important. Students need to access that exam demo, because if they have trouble accessing the demo, then they are not going to be able to access the test on the real day. And so, as I'm sure all of the AP teachers are telling students, practicing in this new virtual submission world is extremely important.
Absolutely. I'm really glad you brought that up and that you put that link in there. All right. Are we ready for the next slide?
Yes, ma'am.
You should be able to see it now.
Okay. I think, Colivian, I think you were going to take this slide, or would you like for me to?
No, I can. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can add in as much as you need to too. Just reiterating that the exams are 45 minutes for each AP exam. There's a how-to video there. I highly recommend students and parents clicking on the link. And teachers have access to that too. I know this morning I emailed teachers as well with the link to the exam practice so that they can post that for students too. I'm just kind of reiterating that from the last slide, but each exam is 45 minutes, of course, unless the student has the approved accommodations, and that, as we said before, is automatically built in. We highly recommend that students test on the May dates as well as College Board. There are the June dates, but they're pretty much reserved for students who may have a technical difficulty, or was a distraction while they were testing and they have to kind of apply for that with College Board, and College Board will be the ones that will approve the June dates for students. Now, if a student doesn't do the test in May, they will automatically get the June ticket. But as a campus, and I know as a district, we are recommending the May dates because if there is a technical difficulty in June, there's not an alternate test date after that. And so I recommend highly that students test in May, just in case they have to do the June testing. Again, any device can be used except for the world languages. Of course, the Chromebooks are not allowed for that, and for the music theory exam. College Board recommends that you use Google Chrome or Safari, really any browser except Internet Explorer, just so that the application can launch correctly and students won't have, hopefully, as many issues with submitting. Handwritten submissions, again, are still allowed. And in the demo that is available for students today, they will show how you can take a picture and upload that as well. They're making it hopefully seamless for students to be able to submit in any way that is easiest for them.
Great, thank you. Right.
So specific information for our AP World Language exams will be coming. There's a link there for the College Board site with details about it. I do know that the app that they are speaking about that's coming in May should be released the week of May 11th. So students that are taking any world language exam and the music theory exam want to make sure that they can download that app, to the tablet that they'll be using or the smartphone that they will be using to take that exam as well.
Awesome, thank you. All All right, so now we're moving on to focus area number 2 in the webinar, and that is helping students to plan how to use their time wisely to prepare over the course of the next couple of weeks. We welcome any advice you have on this. As the mother of AP exam, I should have brought her in to listen.
Exactly. I made a modified version for my own students, but so to start with, College Board has done a fantastic job of creating this sort of online learning through their YouTube channel, and the link on there will take you to those playlists, and students can go and find the courses that they're in. There are a variety of videos that they can look at. With my own students, what I am suggesting is that, because they've been doing sort of these progress checks each week that are in AP Classroom, and identifying for their topics that are their strengths and the topics that they know a little bit less and maybe need to work on. And so picking and choosing which videos, because they are anywhere from like 30 to 45 minutes long. On top of that, College Board has in AP Classroom, which most of us have been using all year, but in AP Classroom, they previously had some sort of protected free response questions, and the majority of exams are those. They're free response open questions. And so they've taken, for each course, they've made a good amount, like from one of my courses in particularly, there are 16 practice free response questions. And they know as teachers, we are doing our best to give specific individual feedback to our students, but we also have a lot going on at home as well, and we try our best. And so the great thing is I think they did with those is they allowed students, once they submit, they can then see the scoring guidelines. And with my own students, I encourage them, once you look at that, if you have questions, shoot those to me in whatever format works for you. We can jump on WebEx, Remind, whatever, and we can talk about specific ones where you're like, I'm not really sure here. And again, like I talked about, the progress checks are for multiple choice questions, but the kids have to know the content in order to write about those concepts, topics, events. And so the progress checks are multiple choice questions that they can practice with. And again, they can kind of use that data to figure out, okay, I'm really good at this, but I need to work on that. Most students buy some sort of booster book or review book, which have lots of practice tests with free response questions. So I suggest those as well. For the actual exam, I know you can use any device. But my suggestion for my students, and again, they may not be able to, and there are lots of other ways, and I will strategize with them tomorrow in our class meeting, but I suggest that they use a charged laptop, because on the laptop or desktop, they can use split screen, because they're going to need to have the prompt open on one side and then have a Google Doc open on the other side. They're going to need to remember that, and they're going to copy and paste that into the College Board website. And so I feel like that's probably the easiest for kids to do. I'm concerned a little bit about handwriting and taking a picture and uploading with different Wi-Fi speeds. And no matter what the time is, whether it's 45 minutes or time and a half, they have to click submit before the time limit's up. And when they have 5 minutes left, that timer will turn red, but that's the only indication that they're going to have. And so to save time, that is my suggestion, and they will have to have a Google Doc for each FRQ. Most are 2 FRQs, free response questions, so they'll have 2 different documents. But that's what I'm suggesting for my kiddos. Other than that, here's sort of the must-dos, and I am shooting this list out to my own students and kind of working it into their weekly checklist where I can. But watching the AP exam overview videos, they're all very short, but they kind of walk the students through what's going to happen, what is that going to look like, which I have freshmen. And so, they're not always as familiar with the process. And I think now nobody's really familiar with this process. And so it might help reduce some anxiety that they have. Also, and I've said this for weeks with my kiddos too, they need to check their College Board email accounts. First of all, they should never be their school accounts. Those accounts stick with them beyond high school. And so it needs to be a personal account that they check often. That is the account that their e-ticket will be sent to. Although College Board was smart, and as backup, they will also put that in AP Classroom for them. They need to do this just for future as well. And so they go to My AP and they can change that email too if they need to. There is the AP exam demo, which I know Julie already talked about. Again, I'm going to have my kids do that at least once as part of their checklist, but I'm going to encourage them to do it multiple times, get used to the timer turning red. It's practice. Again, it helps you makes you feel more comfortable. The exam day checklist is just a good way to make sure I have everything in place. I can, I kind of know what's going to happen when, and it keeps that ID in one place. So we're not trying to search through emails last minute. And just, again, reduce stress. And to add to that, then it's doing it differently this year because we're not face to face, but the self-care piece. This is my time when I start saying, look, you need to make sure you're getting plenty of rest, not just the night before, but in these upcoming weeks. You need to make sure that you're getting some exercise, walking, doing whatever it is that you like to do, but getting some physical movement because it's better for the brain. Keeping yourself hydrated because your brain works more efficiently. And cramming, yes, some people will attest that it works, but taking care of yourself will work even better. And so just helping them sort of work out what that balance is to prepare.
I am so glad you mentioned all of those things, Jasmine. I was thinking to myself, not to get a little cheesy here, but one of the portrait of a graduate attributes we have in GCISD is for students to leave our school system being self-regulated learners. And if ever there has been a time for students to get some really high stakes practice on being self-regulated learners, the things we've discussed so far in this webinar really point to that. They do have to own not only their content knowledge, for the AP courses they're taking, but also especially all of these different format practices and the ability for them to be able to navigate this successfully. It'll be a hurdle, kind of an unexpected hurdle during the month of May this year. But frankly, college will present them with many similar hurdles. And so these will be muscles that they develop as they prepare for unique assessment opportunities for College Board that will help them to prepare for the sort of proactive behaviors that will help them in college as well.
I agree.
All right, so let's jump into focus number 3, which is materials needed. You've touched on this a few times in different ways throughout the webinar, but I'm going to let y'all take this and make sure we have all that we need.
I believe this is me. Okay, just making sure. We again touched on definitely the computer or laptop or the cell phone, any of those devices. If the student is going to write, of course, the pencil and paper or pen. I know in a webinar that I watched for coordinators, they recommended pen because if they're going to take a picture of it and upload it, the pencil could be kind of light. And so thinking about that as they prepare to test as well.
I will suggest black pen as an AP exam reader. Blue sometimes it's light, and if they can't read it, then it's wrong. So that's my suggestion.
Great tip.
Yes, a great tip. And then the exam ticket, that is required for each exam that the student will take. I know at the high school, many of our students take multiple AP exams, and so they will get a kind of an entrance ticket, exam ticket for each exam. And so they will come to their email at least 2 days ahead of time before each exam. And if they, like we said before, can't access that email, it will be on their My AP account. College Board was definitely smart. I know many coordinators mentioned that in our webinars. Can they put it in 2 places, please? We recommend, and so does College Board, to keep the e-ticket for the exam just in case there's an issue. You want to keep it until you have your scores back from the exam. And then there's a link there too for any documents that you can print. I know one of them kind of is specific for the music theory exam with having that, but there's a big list there for students, including that checklist that students can print for each exam to have there, of course, to help reduce any anxiety and just the preparation piece, being prepared for the test.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So some physical considerations for parents.
Go ahead, Julie.
Yes. Yeah. So just a couple of things for parents to consider related to helping their students find a quiet place to take the exam, and try as best as possible to limit distractions by a pet or siblings. Also, if other people in the home could discontinue streaming videos or movies or doing other things that might impact the home's internet connection while your student is testing, that would be really helpful, just to try to set the students up for as much success as possible for the test related to their physical considerations.
I'm really glad you mentioned that. That's an important one. All right. Mr. Berger, do we have any questions from the chat that we need to respond to?
Just a reminder on where we can find the links for all the links in the presentations.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. The slide deck from today, we will download that and archive it on the Parent University website. That's part of GCISD's website. And those slides should be there within the next day. And then the audio of the entire recording of the webinar will be there shortly thereafter. And so all of those links will be active in the presentation. I'm really glad you asked that question. We knew we wouldn't be able to take time to view all of those lists and videos and so forth during this, but now we have it all in one place, kind of the user guide for parents.
And Dr. Newell, isn't that maybe the last slide, does the last slide or one of the last slides have some additional links in addition to the links that are within the presentation? I think all of those could be helpful.
Absolutely. We usually try to, on the last slide of the webinar, kind of curate anything else that we think might be applicable to the topic. And so those links will be there as well. All right. And there are some contact information for the folks who are leading the AP test efforts for each of the two main high schools. I will also add the contact information for those who are taking AP tests at our middle schools as part of the dual language program. I think we had that in the supplemental information that we hadn't gotten added in here yet, but we'll make sure that all the schools' AP contacts are up there should anyone need that for their child's campus. All right, anything else in closing that the panelists maybe thought to add or didn't get a chance to say during their earlier slides?
I noticed on the Q&A that somebody asked, what happens if the internet goes down during the exam, which is, of course, possible. And so my understanding from all the materials I've read and the webinars I've participated in, is that what will happen is that it will show that that student did not complete or submit the exam, and they will be sent a URL to click on and submit the reason why. And there's some leeway. I can't remember the time frame. But there will be some time. It's not like within 24 hours because they know there might be other issues. But once they submit that link, they will automatically receive an e-ticket for June 1st, or I'm sorry, June, whenever their June exam is.
From what in my webinars with College Boards, I heard the time frame would be 48 hours students have to submit that there was an issue during an exam. So
great information. Thank you.
I guess the last thing I would add, Dr. Newell, is that for students to go ahead and take these exams and take them seriously. I know that the College Board has talked to many, many universities around the nation, and the universities have committed to, in the way that they typically do. Sometimes universities take a score for actually credit in that subject. Other universities take a passing score or a 4 or a 5 as elective credit. And so the universities have committed that in the way that they typically have in the past, they will accept these scores. And so I hope that all GCISD students, if they were planning to take these exams, that they will still continue to do that and to push through. Even though the end is near, they will continue to push through and take all their exams and do their best.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you very much. All right. Well, I just want to thank the audience members for joining us today, and the panelists. You guys have been such a wealth of information. I appreciate your taking your time out of today. And Mr. Berger, as always, for being our person behind the scenes who makes everything go. And so anyway, thank you for joining us today. Mr. Berger?